You ever feel her pull away before you have a single piece of proof? The texts get shorter. The warmth cools off. The eye contact changes just enough that you notice it, but not enough to accuse her of anything. Nothing dramatic happened. No confession. No obvious betrayal. And yet, something feels different. That's the part most men ignore. The shift happens before the proof. You don't lose her when she meets him. You lose her when she starts comparing. And the most dangerous part? She may not even consciously realize she's doing it. While you're still standing in the same place, she's quietly reassessing, measuring, benchmarking, feeling a new spark somewhere else, and questioning the one she has with you. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how women act when there's another man in the picture. Not just the surface signs, but the psychological mechanisms behind them. And more importantly, what you must do if this is happening to you. This isn't about paranoia, and it's not about jealousy. It's about pattern recognition. If you want to understand women at a deeper psychological level and never be caught emotionally off guard again, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Now let's start with what changes first. The first thing that changes is not her status. It's not her relationship label. It's not even her behavior in a way you can screenshot. It's her priority. Attraction never dies with a dramatic announcement. It fades in subtle reallocations. The energy shifts before the evidence appears. You used to wake up to a message from her. Now you're the one initiating every conversation. You send something thoughtful. She responds with 2 words. The response time stretches. The emotional temperature drops just enough for you to notice, but not enough to call it out. And here's the part that messes with you. If you bring it up, you sound insecure. So you stay quiet. But your intuition doesn't. You felt it before you could prove it. Most men wait for something concrete. A name, a message, a visible sign. High awareness men watch patterns. Not one bad Tuesday. Not one busy week. Patterns. There's a difference between stress and shift. Stress is temporary. A shift is consistent. When her attention starts drifting, you will feel it in the micro moments. She's physically present, but mentally elsewhere. The curiosity that once pulled her toward you feels muted. The spontaneous warmth becomes calculated politeness. Why? Because attention is the first currency of attraction. Where attention goes, emotional investment follows, and attention is limited. It cannot fully belong to 2 men at the same time. If another man enters her orbit, even casually, the comparison doesn't begin with words. It begins with focus. She starts noticing him, thinking about him, measuring small differences. Meanwhile, you're still operating as if nothing changed. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Are you ignoring patterns because you're afraid of the answer? When priority shifts, replacement has already begun psychologically. Not physically, not officially, but mentally. And mental replacement always happens before emotional detachment becomes visible. The mistake men make here is assuming that if she hasn't done anything wrong, nothing is wrong. That's naive. The shift happens quietly. And if you're grounded, you don't panic. But you don't ignore it either. Because the moment you stop being a priority, you are being evaluated. After priority shifts, effort is the next thing to quietly erode. And effort is where the truth becomes harder to deny. At first it's subtle. She still replies. She still shows up. But something feels thinner. She stops asking follow-up questions. You tell her about your day, she responds, but she doesn't lean in. The curiosity that once made conversations stretch for hours now feels like she's just checking a box. Minimal replies, neutral tone, no expansion. When a woman is genuinely excited about you, she builds with you. She adds, she asks, she deepens. Emotional investment shows up in engagement. When that engagement drops consistently, you are not imagining it. You are witnessing reallocation. Let's talk about something most men don't understand. Emotional energy is finite. A woman cannot pour the same level of curiosity, excitement, and mental bandwidth into two men at the same intensity. If her emotional investment decreases with you, it is being redirected somewhere. Effort never disappears. It relocates. Pay attention to availability. Suddenly she's busy when it comes to you, but somehow available for everything else. Plans get postponed. Calls get shorter. You feel like you're squeezing into a tight time slot instead of being a priority in her schedule. And here's where men rationalize. She's just stressed. She has a lot going on. Maybe I'm overthinking. One isolated instance? That's human. A repeated pattern? That's recalibration. Imagine this scenario. You used to get random photos from her day. Updates, inside jokes, little emotional deposits that said, "I'm thinking about you." Now silence. You reach out. She responds, but she doesn't initiate. You plan. She agrees, but she doesn't suggest. You invest. She matches, but she never exceeds. That is not neutrality. That is gradual withdrawal. When a woman starts emotionally shifting towards someone new, she doesn't usually make a dramatic exit. She reduces effort incrementally while she assesses options. And if you're paying attention, the reduction feels like distance long before it becomes absence. The key question isn't, did she do something wrong? The real question is her investment decreasing consistently? Because when effort fades, interest is being reevaluated. And when interest is being reevaluated, you are no longer secure. Now we go deeper. Because once effort drops, something else activates quietly in the background. Comparison mode. This is not always conscious. She may not sit there thinking, "I'm replacing him." That's too dramatic. What actually happens is far more subtle and far more dangerous. Her brain starts benchmarking. When a new man enters her orbit, at work, at the gym, through social circles, her nervous system registers novelty, and novelty creates stimulation. Dopamine spikes when something unfamiliar appears. Unfamiliar feels intense, and intensity distorts evaluation. Suddenly, traits that once felt stable with you begin to feel predictable. The humor she used to love becomes the same joke. Your routines become boring. Small habits she never mentioned now get highlighted. Increased criticism is one of the clearest signs comparison is active. Not explosive arguments, not dramatic accusations, micro-critiques. "You always do that. Why are you like this? You've changed." But here's the reality. Often, you haven't changed. Her reference point has. The new man doesn't have to be better. He only has to be new. And new feels exciting because it hasn't been fully evaluated yet. There's mystery, there's uncertainty, there's potential. Meanwhile, you are known. Known feels safe. But safety without growth can start to feel flat. Comfort stabilizes. Novelty excites. And if you've become too predictable without evolving, comparison will magnify it. You'll also notice emotional distancing during this phase. She pulls back slightly while assessing internally. She becomes less expressive, less affectionate. Not because she has fully decided anything, but because her mind is weighing. At the same time, future conversations become vague. Talk about long-term plans suddenly feels different. She avoids specifics. "We'll see." "I'm not sure." "Let's not rush things." Future ambiguity is a signal of internal uncertainty. When a woman feels secure, she anchors forward. When she's comparing, she hesitates. Understand something critical here. Novelty does not equal superiority. It equals stimulation. But stimulation can temporarily override rational evaluation. That's the dopamine effect. It exaggerates potential while minimizing risk. And if you don't recognize this dynamic, You'll misinterpret her criticism as random dissatisfaction instead of what it often is: recalibration under comparison pressure. Let me be blunt. If you have stopped evolving, comparison exposes it faster than anything else. Because when another man enters the picture, she subconsciously asks a dangerous question. Is there more out there? And if your presence no longer feels dynamic, that question grows louder. This is not about paranoia. It's about understanding that attraction is not static. It requires movement. And when comparison mode activates, stagnation becomes visible. Once comparison has been activated, language begins to change, and language always reveals internal restructuring before actions fully exit. You'll start hearing phrases like, "I just need some space. I want to focus on myself. I'm trying to figure things out. I don't want anything too serious right now." Now listen carefully. Independence by itself is not a red flag. Healthy people need autonomy. Growth requires breathing room, but context determines meaning. If space comes with reassurance, consistent effort, emotional warmth, clarity about the relationship, that's stability. If space comes with vagueness, reduced investment, selective availability, and comparison energy, that's detachment in progress. When she begins shifting from us language to me language, attachment is loosening. Not explosively, gradually. Psychologically, asking for space reduces accountability. It creates room for exploration without officially ending anything. It's a soft exit mechanism, a way to widen emotional distance while keeping options open. And most men respond to this moment incorrectly. They panic, they cling harder, they push for clarity immediately. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. If another man has entered her awareness, she cannot fully evaluate him while still tightly anchored to you. So she creates emotional bandwidth. Space becomes the bridge between commitment and curiosity. When she asks for space without clarity, she's creating room for evaluation. That doesn't automatically mean betrayal. It means uncertainty. There's another layer most men miss: social repositioning. She starts going out more without you. She emphasizes independence publicly. She highlights how much she enjoys doing things alone. Her narrative subtly shifts from partnership to individuality. Again, independence is not wrong. But when it suddenly becomes central to her identity in the middle of a stable relationship, ask yourself what fueled that surge of autonomy. Often, it's external validation. Attention from someone new can boost confidence quickly. That confidence translates into language. I don't need anyone. I'm good on my own. Confidence is attractive. But a sudden spike in it, paired with emotional distance from you, usually has a source. Understand this nuance. She may not consciously plan to replace you. She may genuinely feel confused, torn between comfort and curiosity. What she's testing is emotional alignment. Does this still feel right? Is there something missing? Is there more? And space gives her the room to explore those questions. The worst thing you can do here is collapse under the pressure. Because the moment you chase, you validate her uncertainty. And uncertainty grows where stability weakens. Now we need to talk about you. Because when another man enters the picture, her behavior matters. But your reaction matters more. The worst thing you can do in this moment is interrogate. Who is he? Why are you acting different? Are you talking to someone else? Do you still love me? Rapid-fire questions don't create clarity. They create pressure, and pressure triggers defense. When a woman feels cornered, she does not reveal truth. She protects autonomy. She minimizes. She deflects. She emotionally hardens. And without realizing it, you shift positions. You go from being the grounded presence she was drawn to the anxious man seeking reassurance. The moment you chase reassurance, you lower your perceived value. Let that sink in. Attraction does not respond to desperation. It responds to stability. There's a psychological principle at play here. People reveal more when they don't feel threatened. If she senses that you are panicking, she becomes more guarded. If she senses calm observation, she relaxes. And her behavior exposes her level of investment naturally. There's a massive difference between confrontation and composure. An anxious man tries to control the outcome. A grounded man observes the pattern. An anxious man demands certainty. A grounded man watches consistency. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If another man's presence is enough to destabilize you emotionally, she will feel that instability. And instability lowers attraction faster than competition ever could. Your power in this moment is not in forcing answers. It's in maintaining posture. You don't interrogate prematurely. You don't beg for reassurance. You don't monitor her movements obsessively. You observe. Because calm reveals truth, and truth always surfaces when you stop trying to control it. Once you stop reacting emotionally, you move into recalibration. This is where weak men try to compete. Strong men evolve. You do not fight for her attention. You expand your value. If her attention has started drifting, the answer is not to chase it back. The answer is to become the kind of man whose presence is felt even in absence. Start with the obvious. Upgrade your physical presence. Not for her, for you. Energy shifts when a man carries himself differently. Posture, grooming, fitness, discipline. These are not superficial. They signal self-respect. Then expand your world. Increase social proof. Strengthen your network. Spend time with high-value environments. Attraction rises when a man is desired by life, not just attached to one woman. Ambition matters more than you think. When a woman senses momentum in a man, comparison becomes harder. Growth reintroduces tension. Movement reintroduces mystery. Remember this. You don't compete with him. You outgrow stagnation. Another critical shift. Reduce emotional over-availability. If she senses that you are waiting for her texts, structuring your day around her responses, emotionally hovering, urgency disappears. Scarcity is not manipulation. It is natural consequence. When your time and attention are diversified, your energy stabilizes. You are no longer reacting to her mood fluctuations. You are anchored in your own direction. And here's the paradox. If her independence talk was genuine self-focus, your calm detachment strengthens attraction. You appear grounded, secure, unthreatened. If her independence talk was cover for exploration, your calm detachment accelerates clarity. She either leans back in or she leans out fully. Clinging delays truth. Detachment reveals it. Recalibration is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming centered. When you improve your life, expand your mission, and reduce anxious availability, you shift the frame. You are no longer competing for position. You are evaluating whether she deserves to remain in yours. Now we arrive at the part most men don't want to hear. If another man can easily destabilize your position was never deeply secured. That's not an insult. It's feedback. There's something called anchoring in relationships. When a woman is deeply anchored emotionally, it takes more than novelty to shake her. It takes more than attention. It takes more than curiosity. Anchoring is built on consistent attraction, respect, emotional safety, and forward momentum. When that foundation is strong, outside stimulation is just noise. But when anchoring weakens, when growth stalls, when tension fades, when polarity softens, comparison hits harder. And here's the hard truth. If she can walk away simply because someone new appeared, she was never fully standing with you. Read that again. This is where most men collapse into self-blame or anger. They label themselves not good enough, or they label her disloyal. Neither response creates strength. The mature response is clarity. If another man's presence exposes instability in the connection, that instability already existed. He didn't create the crack. He revealed it. And revelation is painful. But it's also powerful, because now you see reality without illusion. Preparing for loss without panic is one of the highest levels of masculine composure. You do not beg someone to choose you. You do not convince someone to value you. You do not compete for a position that should have been secure. True power is emotional steadiness under threat. When you reach a point where you can say, if she stays, she chooses me fully. If she leaves, I remain fully. You become dangerous in the healthiest way possible. Because you are no longer attached to outcome. You are attached to your standard. And standards create stability. Competition does not destroy strong connections. It exposes weak ones. If she leans back in, it will be because she feels your grounded evolution. If she leans out, it will be because she was already halfway gone. Either way, you win clarity. And clarity is worth more than temporary comfort. When another man enters the picture, most men obsess over one question. Is she talking to him? But that's the wrong question. The real question is, what changed before he ever mattered? Her attention shifted first. Then her effort relocated. Comparison distorted perception. Independence language signaled emotional transition. And your reaction determined whether you rose in value or lowered it. This has never been about controlling her. It has always been about controlling yourself. A strong man does not fear competition. He fears stagnation, because competition doesn't destroy solid connections. It exposes weak positioning. If you stay grounded while she evaluates, you learn the truth faster. If you evolve while she hesitates, you reintroduce tension. If you prepare for loss without panic, you become emotionally sovereign. And sovereignty is magnetic. You don't beg someone to stay. You don't interrogate someone into loyalty. You don't compete for a position that should already be secure. You improve, you observe, you decide. If you want to become the kind of man who is never easily replaced, not because you control her, but because you control yourself, then subscribe. If you've ever felt the shift before you had proof, comment below. I want to see how many of you recognized it but stayed silent. And share this with a man who is feeling something change, but hasn't found the language for it yet. Remember this, competition doesn't expose her loyalty. It exposes your level.